to the computer, please. All right, here we are. Hi, Marty Aikens.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for making the time to do this with us, since we couldn't all be together. I appreciate you making time on a Saturday morning of all things. So Marty, our onboarding students have gone and looked you up a little bit. Do you want to just start by talking to us about your path in the field, how you fell in love with this work, and a little bit about what your responsibilities are here, how long you've been here, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a whole lot of questions there in one.
All right, give you the floor.
Okay. The way the way I fell in love with theater. I auditioned for a play, I think, when I was in maybe fourth grade, and got a small role, and suddenly figured out that doing something like that meant a specific group of friends, and it was like a fun little team. When I was that age, I wasn't really much into sports. I wasn't sort of a sport kind of guy, being that young. But there was just something really fun about it. It felt like a little family, a little group of friends, and I kind of stuck with it, and continued all through junior high school and well into high school. In high school, I was kind of the theater guy, and I think in high school my love for theater hit a different level. I had a high school teacher, her name was Patricia Sutherland, who was very serious about theater, and it took me sort of a shock for a minute to understand that we were doing something that really meant something. And I think she coached high school theater more like a football coach. She was a lot of get in there, take that line back, no, stop, go in harder, let's really get into the moment, and really took it seriously. And I really understood that there was a lot more passion involved in this, and that even at a young age we could do something that was very meaningful. Serious, not in the fact that it's always like fuddy-duddy, and we did a lot of really fun plays. We were doing Moliere in high school, but she was very serious about it, and I realized that this is something that we could work hard at and really still continue to have fun. And I think I was very lucky in high school that I was around a group of friends of other high school kids who took it seriously like that too. And again, it was like a team sport. I played football through high school too. So
what position did you play?
I did become the athletic guy, but it's so funny. I find them to be very similar. And the fact that
we've talked about that. We've talked about that in class. What position did you play?
I played left guard. Every now and then I was the original, what was his name? Refrigerator Perry. Every now and then they would throw me in at running back because I was a huge dude, and let me smash for the 3-yard gain, to get the first down. So, but theater and football are both very much team sports, and you have to strategize, and you have to go in and make these plays together, and you have to communicate. And it was this set group of friends, or this set group of family that were sort of working together for a purpose. And I've been known in the past to teach a little bit like a football coach, and to direct a little bit like a football coach. But I think a lot of that comes from my training. When I work on theater, I'm very serious about what we do. I'm very passionate about what we do. I think it's one thing to do good theater. It's something different to do wow theater. And I think to do wow theater, you have to push a little, and you have to be willing to say, no, grab the ball, get in there harder, push through that line, get that moment. Let's back up. Let's do this again. So I came through training that really sort of fortified that knowledge. And I was very lucky to have some people who were very passionate. And then when I went to undergrad, the program I was in, 4 out of the 6 professors had all trained together at the Dallas Theater Center. And they were also very serious about theater as a craft. And I really just kind of fell in love with the fact that, that idea that I fell in love with that felt very much like play, and very much like friendship had now turned into something that was something to be pursued, something to be fought after, something to be, I hate to say it this way, but a game to be won. That like there was a finish line, or there was a World Series performance that you could get to with this thing. There was the Super Bowl vigor that you really needed to get at, at the heart of this production, and that meant a lot to me, and it's always made me a bit competitive with what we do. So, I mean, that's a little bit about me. That's how I came to theater. What's your next question?
Can you just talk to us a little bit about your work here, about the roles that you fill? Someone actually asked in class the other day, what does the coordinator of tech and design do? And I said, well, we're going to talk to Marty this weekend. So
I think our program is structured differently than a lot of others. We're a small program, so I think that in the position I'm in right now, I cover quite a few things. I think I cover scenic design, lighting design. I cover primarily, and then I cover scenic painting, props, sound design. I supervise stage management. And then right now I'm also, working to redevelop our marketing strategies and our house and publicity strategies. So, I'm very lucky in the fact that I get to dabble in a lot of different areas. What's that?
This is year 4 or year 5?
Yeah. This is the beginning of year 5 for me. Yeah, and I still kind of feel like I'm a little bit of a new guy on the block, just because 2 of those years were spent remote. 4 of those semesters were spent remote for me during COVID.
Yeah.
So I feel like that. I think with any teacher or any professional, when you come into a program, it takes a minute for you to look around and to think about the way your arts organization is moving and your standard practices and what you're doing. And just about the time we started to really sort of make some changes, COVID hit. So I think now in the last couple of semesters, though, I've been able to sort of stop and look around and think about what we do and how we do it, and think about. I'm huge on student involvement, so I'm constantly looking at ways that where we can get students more directly involved in making major decisions in our productions, moving into design positions, and again, that's that Super Bowl effort that I'm looking, going back to football, since we're in a football mode here. That's that Super Bowl mentality that I want my students to approach everything with, that you want to be the quarterback, you want to be the star running back, you really want to be in a game that we're looking to win, that we're not looking just to do theater or good theater, but we're looking to do wow theater. So I'm constantly trying to look at our program and think, how do we do that? How do we position our students where they understand that culture? How do we position our students where they understand that rigor and that responsibility? And then how do we also position our students to understand the benefit of that, of the way the professional world is going to look at them when they graduate, and the kind of jobs that are going to become available to them, and the kind of people that are going to pursue them as artists, just because of all the really, terrific, the terrific effort and work that they've done in undergrad. So so in the beginning of year 5, we're still trying to figure that out. We're constantly looking at our students and going, who's ready for what? Who's ready to play quarterback? Where is our star running back? And we're ready for people to step up and take those, playing those positions, if you will.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to a couple submitted questions.
Yeah.
All right, so I think you know Chance.
Oh, coffee.
Yeah. Okay. So Chance asks, so you taught prior to coming to the university, you were at the North Springs Charter High School, and it says that under your direction, the school was recognized as one of the top programs in the U.S. and that it sent students on national tours and to Broadway. What lessons do you take from what was implemented at North Springs that separated it from all those other programs? But do they do differently to gain that national recognition that maybe we would want to bear in mind going forward as a program?
Yeah, I think that answer is really pretty simple and direct. I was lucky. I did not intend to teach. I had been freelancing, which freelancing means going, from job to job to job to job. That can often be very lucrative, but there's also gaps between employment. Someone looked at my career and said, I think you'd be a great teacher. And I said, well, that's a steady job. That's a paycheck every 30 days. I'll give it a try for a year. And I said, well, I don't know that I'm really certified to teach. And they said, well, this program, we're allowed to hire professionals to come in and teach. As a matter of fact, like the focus of this program is that we hire industry professionals to come in and teach in this Performing Arts Magnet Academy. And I said, let's do it. I'll try it for a year. And after a year, I realized I was in love with it, because I think there was a commitment from day one that we weren't going to do high school theater, that we were going to do professional theater with high school aged artists. And I think that made all the difference to me in the world. Again, it's that understanding that we're doing serious work here and valid work. We're not gonna try to do, there's nothing wrong with community theater, but I think community theater or hobby theater is a different sort of mindset. When you're looking at creating professional productions with the professional production qualities and production values, you really got to be after something. And this high school program was no, we can do professional theater with students this age. We're going to do professional theater with students this age, and students this age are entirely capable of taking this work seriously. And I think that made all the difference in the world of how we approached our students, how we spoke to them, how we trained them. There is no diet theater. In high school, I was teaching them design principles, and I was teaching them to stage manage. And when they were on stage, training and acting courses and hitting the stage, they were getting the same direction that professionals were getting. There was no dumbing down. There was no change of schedule. They spent just as many hours or more rehearsing, and was lucky again to work with a lot of professionals who were serious minded. So in that respect, our program won several Grammy Awards. We did 2 tours to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland. We performed our show in London, and we performed our show for 2 weeks in Edinburgh, Scotland. We did that twice. We performed a couple of shows in New York. We took field trips to New York and did masterclass. So this high school was very serious about what they were doing, and they were really going after it. And my point is that even at a young age, you can approach your work with professional standards. Professional is not a paycheck. Professional is not a degree. I would say to students now, if you're waiting till you have your degree and you're saying, I'm gonna take myself seriously or act as a professional once I get my degree and once I get into the professional world, you're missing a lot of training time. Professional is a work ethic. It's a state of mind. It's an approach to who you are, an approach to your work that can start when you're 7 years old. As soon as you can understand that it's that work ethic, you can start practicing that work ethic, and it will make a difference in who you are. It will make a difference in your career. And I think that a lot of people look at the word professional and they think, well, I'm going to be boring, or I can't be my own personality. I like to describe it as I like to goof off, but I also like to I like to earn my goof off time. I think the hard work that I put into my job and my efforts gives me all the reason in the world to goof off and slack when my obligations and responsibilities are not only met, but I've exceeded at my obligations and my responsibilities. And I think that's a bit of that's a professional mindset that you can adopt. It's not an age thing. It's not a paycheck thing. It's who are you, and what kind of an artist do you want to be, and what kind of an artist do you want the world to see you as? And I've always thought you need to be a little bit of a maniac about yourself as an artist. You know, a lot of people don't take the art seriously. They don't look at what we do as something that's viable to the world often. Though the Chronicle of Human Time has shown that it's absolutely necessary and essential to who we are and what we do. So, but I think you got to be a little bit of a maniac about it to succeed in it, and got to give it that Super Bowl effort, even from a young age. Get in there.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. All right, let's see. Nick McCow, do you know Nick McCowiak?
Yeah, Nick worked with us on as an electrician on the fall show, which is another good point. Cross training.
Well, I was going to say it's related
skills.
specifically to his question. So, Nick says, as someone who's worn a lot of hats, tech and design, acting, teaching, what are the things that you've learned in one practice that help you in the others? And he also wants to know, since you've done both television and theater,
yeah,
do you notice a difference in culture and climate between those worlds? Do you have a preference for one or the other? If so, why?
Man, yeah, I mean, it's all the same. You know, in so many ways, it's all the same. It's all project creation. It's all going from concept to concrete. You know, it's about taking practical skills like organization, documentation, getting things done, man, and getting them done. Whether it's TV, you got to get it done. If it's film, you got to get it done. If it's theater, you got to get it done. And you're working with a host of people who have individual skills that need to collaboratively get that done. And again, hopefully with some verve and some vigor. I think that so many of the skills that we have transfer over. I think, you know, here's a really good example. One of my very first big jobs in TV was I got a job as a teleprompter operator. And the reason I got that job is because I had stage managed and I knew how to read a script. And I was so good at the teleprompter that I started asking people, hey, I'd like to check out how you run these cameras. And they promoted me to run the cameras. And I was so good at following those directions that they said, we like the way you communicate. How did I know how to communicate? Well, I communicated over a headset in a theater atmosphere. And they said, would you be interested in being our new our crew chief, our deck chief, you know, on the cameras? And I was like, sure, I'll run that. And then that led into, you're really, really great at this about telling people what to do. Why don't we move you into the booth and start training you to be a director? So all these skills are sort of like additive and are a little bit plug and play across TV, film. As soon as you walk onto a film set, you realize a certain level of seriousness that these skills really get turned up to, you know, 11 or 12 on the dial, because you're working on a production where there's millions of dollars on the line in budget. You're working with A-list, B-list stars who you're working with union guys who are getting paid a whole lot of money, and they have very specific time demands of how long they can be on set. You have a whole lot to accomplish in a very short window, and there's a whole lot at stake. So working on a film set, some of the simple things that we learn in theater are magnified just because of the time, the money, and the budget that's involved with that production. They have to recoup money in a way that maybe we don't have to worry about in academic theater.
Yeah,
you certainly have to worry about that in Broadway theater. And you know, same thing with Broadway. As soon as you walk onto some sort of a Broadway production, you can realize people are very serious. Like if there's a glimmer that you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get run over, and you're going to get replaced by somebody who can, because there's a lot of money at stake. There's usually, in the US, there's a very short time to get that Broadway show up. So it's like the same skills transfer across from TV to radio to film to, you know, big productions. I was very lucky that I got to work with a company called Cirque du Soleil, if you've heard of it. But, you know,
I was actually
you're working. Saying it.
Bo Guidry was asking, can you talk a little bit about the Cirque du Soleil experience?
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. But the cool thing about theater training is it allowed me to get my first radio job, which let me get my first TV job, which let me get my first film job. And then my resume started building, and I sort of stepped back to theater and
All right,
set it
hang
out.
on. So sorry, hang on 1 second. All right, and we're back.
Yeah,
So-
you shouldn't have stopped the recording. That whole interaction was really, really cool.
Ah.
What you guys didn't see was Carl working to communicate, and very similar language to a stage manager of checking systems and communication and communicating. It's pretty cool. That would have been a cool example just to watch.
I guess I should have let it run. That was our audio person checking to see. So I'm in Oklahoma, but I'm talking to people in Connecticut in real time. And so we just want to make sure that the truck and the talent and the people in Connecticut and me can all speak to each other. Do you check it on set day? Sometimes it works great on set day, then game day comes. They'll even sometimes we'll do this. We'll do the hour and a half check before kick, and then something will happen, and then there's people solving problems, after the curtain goes up. Anyway.
Troubleshooting. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too, is like just being a master of your craft and know how to troubleshoot things in the moment. I think about any of the stuff that we do, the only thing that's consistent is change. Things are going to change, and you have to be able to know how to roll with the changes and make it work, and be master of your skills and your craft and make it work in a minute. We were talking about the difference between TV, film, theater.
Yeah.
They're so very similar. I think the TV and film world are very much like hurry up and wait. We got to get something done very quickly in time. The film world is kind of strange because you will work 5-6 days a week, sometimes 14 to 16 hours on straight. It's a lot of money, a lot of pressure on the line. You may work in this location for 2 days, and then suddenly you have to pack everything up and put it in trucks and move to another location, sometimes moving cities, sometimes moving to different locations in the city. You may come back to that location in a couple of days, but there's a lot of moving around. Yeah. Generally, what we do in theater, we do it in sort of one space for the entire time till you're on a tour. And then suddenly the tour is like, no, let's pack everything up.
And it's like this, right? Hours. Set it up, pack it up, move it, next city.
Put it in the truck, load it in, load it out, put it in the truck, do the show over and over. So it really just kind of depends on what you're doing, the nature of what you're doing. Is one harder than the other? They're just different. Is one different sets of skills? Yes, but they are all very similar. If you learn lighting in theater, you're going to be able to walk onto a TV or film set and communicate in a way that you can learn the ins and outs of that. If you're learning,
can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah, dude.
Mia LaFleur sent in a question saying, "Can you talk to us a little bit about film lighting, about lighting for film? Yeah. Can you talk to us about, what you should be bearing in mind when you try to light a scene that's different than what we bear in mind when we're lighting for stage?" Was the question. So since we're
and so I'm not a film lighting designer. I'm very much a theater lighting designer. In the film world, you're working generally with fewer lights. You're working with a little bit different angles because you're working with the camera. In theater, you're working with multiple viewpoints or multiple sight lines, who are all sort of looking at one thing or one picture. Especially in a proscenium theater, you're all sort of looking at the theater from the same direction. In film, the camera may move. There may be a shot over a shoulder. There may be a shot from the front. So we're lighting per shot. We're moving the lighting every scene or every angle. So we still work with some of the same concepts. There's going to be a key light that's going to light the actor in the face. There's going to be fill lights that give them a nice glow, that give them some sort of radiance from behind or contrast. There's going to be environmental lights that like in film, I have sunlight coming through this window. We're not going to leave that up to chance in film because that sun is going to change and it's going to set. So they're going to black out this window, and then they're going to plaster right behind this window really big lights called chimeras or huge lights called, Fresnels, and they're going to frost them and they're going to mimic the sunlight, so that if we shoot the scene for 6 hours, that sunlight's going to be consistent across those 6 hours. But a lot of the same techniques, you're working with very similar lighting instruments. You're running power to it in a very similar way. You're gelling it, which is the color that goes in front of it. You're gelling it. In theater, most of the time we work with a heightened reality. So we have sort of a way to work with like some more saturated colors and poetic colors. In film, most of the time you're dealing more with like a realistic sense of things. So we may do sunlight on the stage as like really golden and orange. In the film world, it's going to be much more white or blue to try to mimic reality. Sometimes in theater, we're not really going for reality. We're going for mood. We're going for tone. We're going for passion and emotion. And again, that like heightened storytelling. Film guys, theater will think about hanging up the lights for the entire show. Maybe it's a 2.5 hour show with 23 different scenes. We'll think about how the lights work in multiplicity for that and sort of service all the scenes. As again in film, we're redoing the lighting over and over and over again for every shot. But generally in this room, if this were a scene in a movie, we might have 8 to 10 lights. Sometimes you work on a set where the rig above your head is very similar to a theater rig. I have some friends in New Orleans, a guy that I used to teach with at Loyola, who is a theater lighting designer, and he brings his own board into a theater set and runs the lights just like you would in a theatrical show. So different details, very similar animal, but I would say that your theater training will get you a good 75% down the road and try to understand how to do film lighting. There's just a few particulars and stuff, but very similar concepts, very similar equipment, just a little different process. When you work in like TV news, it feels a lot more like you're in a theater. So you're working with lights that aren't going to really move much, that are designed to hit the actor or the anchor, the talent in a specific way, to give them a specific color. You're going to have generally sort of cues and presets the same way you would in theater. So it really just kind of depends on the story you're trying to tell.
Sitcoms are like that too, right?
Yeah.
Where you basically have a theater set and that environment you're going to be in frequently.
Yeah, so when you're looking at a show like Seinfeld or Friends, R.I.P. Matt Perry, when it's on a sound stage, you're going to have a lighting design that feels very similar to the lighting design in a theater, because they're going to want that space to look consistent. They know what that space is going to look like show after show after show for different scenes or different shots. So again, incredibly transferable skills and methodologies.
Great. So we only have a couple more minutes here. Can I ask you about Bo's question about Cirque du Soleil, your experience, what that was like?
Yeah, it was amazing. I actually fell into that job backwards. I was working at a theater company, a Shakespearean theater company called Utah Shakespearean Fest in the southwest corner of Utah. How did I get that job? I was an undergrad and I applied for a summer stock position. You guys should all be talking about summer stock, whether you're tech or acting. Get out there in the summer, get your professional experience. So I worked out there for 2 seasons as their crew chief. So I was in charge of all the shift crew and the running crew who was running the show. If you've never heard of Utah Shakespearean Fest, it is a summer stock theater that has won multiple Tonys at this point. They have huge productions. We opened up 7 different shows within a 10-day span. So it was a really, really crazy experience. And that's one of the ways I learned of how to really get after this theater thing. And we were about an hour and 15 minutes away from Las Vegas. So we spent a lot of our free time in Las Vegas. And a lot of the people in the company had ties with people in Cirque du Soleil. they would come over and see our shows on their off days. We would come over and see their shows on the off days. And of course, after we saw the show, we would hang out in bars together and talk shop and drink beer. So I get to hang out and drink beer with acrobats from Germany and Russia and Asian acrobats from China and Korea. And of course, all these really French Canadian people from Montreal who are part of Cirque du Soleil. And I developed a relationship with them. And whenever my contract ran out at Utah Shakes, they said, we have a guy who's going on a medical outage for a little while. Would you be interested in coming with her, working with us in Las Vegas? And I said, would I? So I did a 3-month contract over with Cirque du Soleil, working as a lighting technician. At this point, I had so many different things on my resume that I could go in multiple different directions. They asked me how good I was with lighting, and I was like, gotcha, I could do it, let's do it. So they actually put me up in the Treasure Island Casino Hotel for 3 months, and I subbed in for this guy as a lighting electrician, and really impressed them with my work. And when my contract was up, they said, we're developing a brand new show called O, which is the letter O, but it means the French word eau, which is for water. So they gave me another 3-month contract to work on the show at the Bellagio called O, and helping them install the light. That show hadn't opened yet. So I worked as an electrician for them, helping them install the lighting there at the Bellagio Hotel. And they actually offered me a permanent job. If you know the show O, please look it up. The letter O by Cirque du Soleil. It happens in a gigantic pool of water. So I've done a lot of water on stage, and how I learned to do water on stage is I watched what they were doing with Cirque du Soleil and the way they were talking about this gigantic pool, and I took a lot of techniques from that. And they offered me a job as an underwater welder, because all the platforming and stuff and the water effects have to be or underneath this gigantic pool of water. And they were going to send me to the Caribbean to get my underwater scuba certification. I already knew how to weld, but they were going to get me my scuba certification and teach me how to underwater weld so I could continue to work on the show with them long term. And then I had to make a decision. I was like, okay, at this point, I've run away with the circus. Do I want to keep doing that? Because I was making a tremendous amount of money. In my young 20s, I was making a little under $2,000 a week working for Cirque. But I also knew, in professional theater, you don't have to have a degree to succeed. But if you don't have a degree, there's a lot of doors that are not going to be available for you to knock on. So I had to make a decision. I could continue working with the circus and maybe stay with them for my entire career, or I could go back and finish my degree. I knew at some point I wanted to design. I knew at some point I wanted to teach. I knew at some point I wanted to get my master's. And I knew that if I stayed with the circus, I would probably still be with the circus, which is funny. This whole talk about the circus. Here's something that's really funny that a lot of people don't know about me. I'm an actor as well. I really sort of, in my heart of hearts, I'll always be an actor. And my high school year of my senior year of high school, I applied to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Clown College in Tallahassee, Florida, because I was determined that I wanted to become a professional clown. I've always been attracted by physical acting and kinetic acting. And I got accepted, and I told my mom, and my mom cried. And I said, okay, maybe. So in my heart of hearts, I'm still a clown. I'm on stage somewhere in my mind, clowning. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to work for Cirque du Soleil as well, is they just have this like amazing, beautiful clowning tradition, and the way they tell stories through movement and mime and stuff is just really amazing and really delicious storytelling. So
cool. Such an insight into you, Marty.
Yeah. So I could have been. I mean, I still am a clown in some ways, but I could have been professional.
This is why I like doing these. I like doing the series, because I get to know all kinds of things about my colleagues who I spend my days with, but it turns out I don't know that
And
they a scuba diving welder.
I mean, my undergraduate degree is in acting and directing,
Right.
but I fell in love with the production process of theater, and my master's degree is in scenic and costume design. So, I really love being able to do a little bit of everything. I love being able to do a little bit of TV and some film and radio. I've done a lot of voiceover. You can find my voice in several video games, and I did commercials for years. I spent 2 years shooting car commercials for Toyota and Ford. So, every car commercial that you would have seen between the years of 1999 and mid 2000 would have come from the film group that I led. So, it's all about skills.
Several folks in the onboarding class in the first year who are primarily interested in voice acting. So I'm going to have them come knock on your door.
Yeah, it's great. I spent a year and a half working for a company that made virtual reality video games that were it was one of the first few iterations of VR. And I worked for a company called Ham on Rye Technology. And I trained actors to go into motion capture studio and pretend to be trolls and, Mexican banditos and, knights on horseback. That came from my acting and directing training. And I traveled all over the US. They would send me out. We had this huge contract with the Six Flags themes parks. So they would send me out to work with these actors, and we would all fly to a motion capture studio and work on character movement and, how to do that with the technology of virtual reality and green screen animation and motion capture. So all of that came from, my work in theater. And really it was kind of a cross section between all the stuff I had been doing with TV as well and understanding TV technology and stuff. And that married with my training as an actor and a director. So a lot of stuff you can do, man. So many things you could do. I've staged weddings.
That ties right back to the question that Nick was asking about how are they different and how do they mutually inform each other? I think it also kind of tracks with the theme in some ways of the meet and greet series, which has been people saying like, get your hands dirty, get involved now. Jump in with both feet now.
People want to work with people who are highly trained. They want to work with people that they can trust to get it done and get it done well. And they want to work with people who are very serious minded about their work. And if you can, those three things, no matter what you do, you'll be successful. And we do so much like project management and project creation that it transfers to so many other jobs. Theater people are really terrific about managing so many different kind of project-oriented fields. So even if you step outside theater, TV, film, that kind of stuff, those skills are transferable across the board. And it's about that professional mindset. It's about that let's go get them, let's do this well kind of mentality. And it's about being able to work with the team, to be able to collaborate with your team and collaborate as an artist.
Awesome. Thank you. I've held you over time here, and I need to give this booth back to the people it belongs to. So I really appreciate your time today. And I'm sure that some of these folks are going to come knocking on your door.
Get your training, kids. And if you have any questions, man, come look me up, and we will, you have a great faculty around you who can help guide you to walk the path to success. It's not difficult, but you got to be serious about it. You got to be dedicated about it. You can make your entire life as an artist playing make-believe. But you got to go after it. It doesn't just fall in your lap. You got to go after it.
Great. All right. Hey, thank you for the time today, Marty. I truly appreciate it.
Cheers.
Hope you have a great Saturday.
Yay. Go team. Who are we rooting for today?
Well, I mean, I'm at OSU, so I think I have to be.
Go whoever wins.
Yeah. Cowboys. Yeah, I have to. All right. All right, my friend, you have a good one. I'll see you all in class, and I'll see you on Monday.
Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye.